So if it doesn't seem like it was that long ago that Subaru came out with a new Crosstrek, it's because it wasn't. It was only about 6 years ago, back in 2016, the second generation launched, and that was only about 5 years after the first generation of the Crosstrek came out. So it's a bit of a shorter life cycle than you might expect, especially from a brand like this that stretches them 7 or 8 years. But this one really is just building on all the good stuff that came with the second generation Crosstrek back in 2016, right down to the styling. It looks mostly the same. Really, it's going to take a keen observer to notice the differences. I happen to like them. This thing has a little bit more cladding. I really like the way that bar across the top of the grille blends into the headlights. It's just a cool, subtle touch. The interior is where you are going to notice the biggest differences, but I do want to talk about the outside because the footprint is almost the same. The wheelbase is 5 millimeters longer, and that is it. Every other dimension is virtually identical, and the same does apply to the cabin. So you have a little bit more rear seat legroom because of that longer wheelbase, but otherwise this feels the same dimensionally, but not necessarily from a functionality standpoint. This just feels, again, like a refined vehicle, and the same goes with the ride quality. Now, this is the second iteration of the Crosstrek to be built on Subaru's global platform, so more refinements come with stuff like structural adhesive. The last Crosstrek had 8 meters of it used to stick all the body panels and stuff together, make sure it was nice and tight, a rigid chassis. This one has 27 meters of that structural adhesive, and the cool thing is, that meant that Subaru could soften the suspension damping just a little bit, and you do notice it. It's very floaty over bumps, almost too much when you get into corners. There's a bit more body roll than I would like to see. There's also virtually no steering feel whatsoever, but this is a very pleasant vehicle to drive, and that's exactly what you want. Now, this one I'm driving is the range-topping limited trim, so it's got a 2.5 liter 4-cylinder engine under the hood that was introduced a couple years ago. It's the same engine that you can get in the Outback, and it's exactly what the Crosstrek needed because the 2 liter that's still in the base trim as well as the Onyx, it's gutless. It's pretty awful. It only makes like 152 horsepower and 145 pound-feet of torque. This 2.5 liter, it makes 182 horsepower and 178 pound-feet of torque, and it really does get up and go in a way the Crosstrek never did before with that 2 liter engine. You can also get the 2.5 in the Impreza for this year, which I am really happy to see, but in the Crosstrek, it's just what you needed. This isn't about outright bursts of speed. It's about passing power. It's about merging onto the highway, having confidence that what you're driving is going to be able to get up and go. I also like that it's been refined. Again, that is a running theme here. So it's not as noisy, it's not as gruff. It works really well with this continuously variable transmission. I have no complaints about the powertrain. Even the dynamics, aside from the steering, it really does feel engaging. We did some off-roading earlier and it held its own. This is a good vehicle. It's just, again, building on all the good that came before, right down to the spaciousness. Visibility is improved when you take a look out the back window. Those D-pillars have been reshaped and it just makes it that much better. I've got tons of room in here. I really like it. I also like the pricing structure. Now, it is more expensive than before, which is to be expected. So it starts at right around $29,000 for the base convenience trim. And then you have the touring trim, and that thing is $32,000. Then you jump to the Onyx. That's the first one that has the 2.5 liter engine. That's right around $34,000 before freight and taxes. And then this range topper, it's 37 grand. That does get a little expensive when you consider that freight and PDI is gonna add $2,200 to all of those trims in Canada. But I still think this thing has tons of value. It's a good solid pick in this segment with enough new stuff to keep it competitive with some of the other entries in this class. This is a pretty excellent subcompact crossover.